Welcome to Raptors Today. I'm Savanna Hamilton, joined alongside with Sherman Hamilton and Paul Jones. Hope you guys are having a happy holidays. And let's get straight to it. Let's talk some Raptors basketball. The Raptors are down 0-2 on the season with two not so great quarter losses to, kind of reflects the record. But there is absolutely no reason to panic, and we'll tell you why. There's lots of positives to still take away from this. Let's get to it. Jonesy, kick us off. Give me your thoughts on the performances that you've seen over the past two games so far.
Well, I mean, you kind of expected a little bit of an adjustment period. I mean, you've got new personnel. You've lost two key guys in Serge Ibaka and Marc Gasol, and now you're trying to a little bit more from Norm. It hasn't come right yet. Pascal still trying to find himself, even in this new season, as the main guy. Aaron Baines trying to work into the lineup. You have Chris Boucher coming in off the bench. So there's still a kind of water finding its own level kind of thing, Savannah. And if I'm a Raptor fan, there's no reason to be discouraged at 0-2. I mean, that game in San Antonio the other night, think about it. They're up 4 with 2 minutes to go and the ball. They let that one get away. And I had a coach that always used to say to me, there are games in a college season that you lose in September or October. By the time those same games and same situations roll around in February or March, when you're peaking, those things don't happen. And I think the Raptors are in that same boat.
I think when I look at the two games that they've played, I feel like so much positive stuff. But we're used to them winning those kind of games. We're used to them coming out on top. And the fact that they didn't win those two games is kind of creating some concern for people. And I just want everybody to pump their brakes. 2 games in, there's enough there to think that there's hope for this team to be a very good team again. Although I will say there are some things that they need to clean up before it starts to get any momentum. One thing we saw was the rebounding issues, crucial times where they needed that defensive rebound. They weren't able to secure the ball. The other thing is sometimes they can get a bit loose with the basketball, and that comes with trying to figure out everybody's tendencies and where everybody wants the basketball. But the positives way outweigh so far in these two games. The only thing is that they've lost a couple games. That's it, and we're just not used to seeing that, at least not in the last 7 years or so.
I love it. The October games are totally different games in February. Let's hear what Coach Nick Nurse had to say to media today.
Oh, definitely across the board, Josh. I think that, I think there's some mistakes there. I go back and watch the film. Gosh, there were so many rebounding kick-out threes, rebounding putbacks. I'm a little more concerned with the missed blockouts on that. Got to do a better job of putting in position to communicate from my standpoint. Right, like the rotations and the schemes and a few things, just they need a little refresher on some of that stuff, and I think that'll clear a lot of it up. But I'm a little more with just some more hustle plays, 50-50 balls, defensive rebounding, etc. And communication is always way at the top of our priority list. There's just been a few too many breakdowns, and yeah, it's just probably getting a new group, a little more in sync. I think we're moving in the right direction. Again, there was, I know there was, some putbacks and some open threes and a couple other, driving layups that normally we would cover up. We're not doing. We just got to make sure we do those little things, Josh. I think that'll go a long way. If we just cleaned up the defensive glass some, we would have taken about 17 points off the board, and I think we did a good job. And listen, the two teams I thought we played really well, right? I mean, they had a bunch of, I would call league average shooters shoot way above, what they do, and then you go watch them play the next night, and they don't do that again. So sometimes that's the way it goes too. that we go into a stretch where give them credit. They made some good shots too. Both the games we've played, the margin for the games have been kind of right there, a little back and forth. Margin for error is pretty slim either way. To get a couple newer guys' feet wet yet. I think you gotta again give these guys the utmost look, and then filter in these guys. These other guys are going to get a chance. It's just a matter of when we're going to need them, and we're trying to get them ready to go for that opportunity.
Now, sure, Jonesy touched on it earlier about how, Pascal's still figuring out his new teammates' playing style. I personally have seen Pascal play a bit more aggressively, and I personally like that. But what are your thoughts on Pascal's offensive presence from what you've seen so far?
Well, we're seeing that Pascal can still score the basketball, and I don't know why everyone was so panicked about him in the bubble, thinking it would be the same thing this season. Pascal can score the basketball. He's still very difficult to defend. And I think right now Pascal is in that spot of trying to figure out how to be a better facilitator. We saw him with 8 assists in the last game, but just moving the basketball, attracting that second defender, and then finding a teammate. And still balancing that out with him being aggressive, as you mentioned, Savanna, and being that guy who can score the ball with force around the basket. So he's going to work through that, and I think he's doing a pretty solid job of scoring, being aggressive, and moving the basketball. But it's still a learning curve. No matter how good these guys are, when you throw something new at them, that they have to adjust their focus and their direction when they're used to doing certain things, there's a phase that they have to get used to. And right now we're seeing Pascal adjust to that. And I think he's doing a very good job of it. And again, I go back to it. It's just because they haven't won. It's why we're really putting a microscope on a guy like Pascal. But I think he's going to be very good this year. And I'm not concerned about the fact that he might have one of those slumps where he's trying to figure things out. It's going to happen. It's part of the process.
Pascal spoke to media earlier today. And Jonesy, I want to hear your thoughts on that after.
Yeah, I just think that for me, like I try to be, I've always pride myself on making the right basketball play, and I think every time I go out there on the floor, that's what I try to do. Again, some of them you can be, oh, you got to be more aggressive or whatever, but I just always feel like I have to make the right play, the right basketball play, and if that's a pass, because again they're packing the paint, 2, 3 people around the rim, when you drive, you just have to make that play, and then for me also just being another ball handler, somebody that can take the ball and make plays. We have great ball handlers on our team with Kyle, Fred, but I think just being that person again, operating from the post, being able to pass from that. In different positions, I think it's going to help us. And I'm just trying to do that. I'm trying to do that at a high level and making sure that I make the easy play out there. I think, some things change, but I just feel like, it's always been about flow and things like that, which is what we did before. Some things change there and there that we got to adjust and adapt to. But I just think that the main part of it is kind of the same. We just got to figure out as a team. Obviously, we have new personnel and different people to figure out. So it's going to take us time and being together and continue to work and get that chemistry going and be able to make the right plays at all time, which is what we focus on.
Now, Jonesy, let me know what you think.
Well, interesting, Savanna, to hear. Yeah, interesting to hear Pascal say the same kind of things that we talked about. He's adjusting to new people. He has to be, the main guy making plays, and it's about making the right basketball play. And I know that if we could have got there and sat with Pascal with that game at 114, 110, I mean, we talk about the defensive lapses that they've had, a rebound here, a rebound there, but on the offensive end, Pascal twice got into the lane. And on one play, he had OG for a corner 3. He chose to take a shot, a short jump hook in the lane. He just missed that shot. That's the nature of the make or miss league. And on the next play, he got into the lane again. Lowry was locked and loaded for a kick out 3, and he got a terrible call on an offensive foul. And I know that made Nick Nurse irate, and you could see Nick really getting after the official after the game. But Pascal just trying to make the right basketball play. And as he said, he's also adjusting to things. He's also adjusting to the new people, where they want the ball. The other thing that's not being said is he's got another coach in his ear. He's got Chris Finch giving him some new principles and some new concepts too. So he's a smart guy. He'll figure it out. But right now, it's kind of like drinking from a fire hose, and you just want to make sure that you're taking in enough water. If you take it all in at once, it's going to be problematic. So as Sherm talked about, we've all talked about, it's 2 games in. And especially the second game, it was 1 quarter, and still with 2 minutes to go, they're ahead. We're used to seeing them win those games. They will figure it out, and Pascal is going to be a major part of that.
There's adjustments to be made. That's what we expect at this point of the season. You guys both touched on it. Now, what we didn't expect maybe was just how well Boucher has been balling out the past couple of games. Check this out. In 22 minutes, he's been averaging 17 points per game, shooting 71% from the field. Like, that's like, man, shooting well. So the efficiency is crazy. He's literally playing like a coach's dream. Jonesy, give me your thoughts on what you've seen so far in his performance.
Well, Chris has always been a guy that's taken advantage of opportunity. And what I love about Chris is he gets into the game, he makes things happen. He's blocking shots, he's running the floor, he's getting offensive glass rebounds on the glass and tipping stuff in. You know, he's spotting up, presenting himself for open shots and open threes. So he's never a guy that you have to worry about running stuff for. And he's just got an expanded role and an opportunity right now, and he's taking advantage of it. And I just like the fact that Nick Nurse trusted him enough at the end of the game to say, you know what, for rebounding, for shot blocking, for offense, I'm going to leave Chris in the game. Because there were a lot of people saying, well, where's Aaron Baines? Chris was playing well enough. He earned that time. He deserved that time to be in there at the end. And again, just keep an eye on Chris because he's a guy that always takes advantage of opportunity when he's on the floor.
Now, Sherm, I gotta ask you this. How does Nick Nurse go about coaching a player like Chris between finding the time to develop him while increasing his confidence and getting him in the rotation throughout the season?
Well, I think Chris is a confident player. I mean, even the past few seasons, we've seen him when he gets in the game, he's got no fear of shooting the ball, whether it's the first time he touches it or the second time, he's going to let it flow. The other thing about Chris is he's a bit older. He's a guy who's a bit more mature. So he understands his grind and where he is. And he also understands it's time to cement myself. It's time to make myself a fixture. And we talked about this earlier when we started doing these Raptors Todays. Look, he's at a point now where he's earned this deal. He's worked hard. He's gotten rewarded for it. And that can kind of take the confusion in the league. It takes away that uncertainty about what your role is. Now he knows he's a part of the process. This organization believes in him. And that can just kind of lighten the load off him to just go out there and play more freely. And what we're seeing from Chris is a more confident, productive player because of that. And Nick Nurse has been unbelievable at utilizing players for their strengths and putting them in positions to succeed. And he's just going to put Chris out there, give him the opportunity. And Chris is not going to have that short hook that he had before. He's going to play through mistakes. He's going to play through maybe some miscues. And that allows the player to expand their game, get better, get more confidence, and allows them to understand how valuable in terms of winning for this franchise.
Jonesy, Sherm, I'm going to catch up with you guys in just a bit. I'm going to go straight now to RTX, to a conversation we had a little bit earlier today. I'm joined today by Michael Roach, host of the Michael Roach podcast, and fun fact, PA for the Toronto Raptors broadcast. Michael, what you saying? How you doing?
I'm doing well, Savanna. How are you? Thanks for having me.
Good, I'm good. And Joseph Casciaro, senior writer at The Score. Thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for nailing the last name too.
Yo, I had to. So let's get straight to it. There's a lot to talk about, specifically with Chris Boucher. Raptors Republic actually tweeted out, "Get that garbage out of here," but in French. And I'm not going to do a disservice to French Canadians. So, Michael, you're going to have to say that for me.
Whoa.
Did I put you on the spot?
Yeah, you did. My French is beyond subpar.
Oh, really? Okay. Oh, you're from Montreal, so I was expecting more. But let's get to it.
That's a part of the reason I moved to Toronto.
Oh, really? Oh, wow. Okay. Good to know.
Love Montreal, though. Love Montreal.
Of course. Michael, what is your expectations from Chris Boucher this season?
Well, I mean, when you look at the performance that he had the other night against the San Antonio Spurs, it's clear that the guy has talent. We saw that from last season. But if we're looking at numbers, I'm looking at something at about 12-7. The guy is not shy when he's on the court. We see what he can do around the basket. He has some decent hands. He can shoot the ball from the outside. He can make some good defensive plays. So with that being said, he is going to get some time for the Raptors, unlike last season. Now, obviously, we've lost our front court. So with him and Baines, they're going to have to be effective somewhat if the Raptors are going to be pulling out some W's. So, like I said, about 12-7 on average. He's a guy who can stretch the floor for you, make good defensive plays. So I'm expecting some big things from Chris Boucher this season.
The thing with Boucher is, like, production-wise, I'm not sure. Like, numbers-wise, I don't know what the target should be. But I think for me, my expectations are that he establishes himself as a legitimate, consistent rotation player on, what I think, despite the 0-2 start, we still think could be like a fringe contender. I think that would be a really nice step for him in his career. This is a guy who 3 years into his career has never averaged more than 13 minutes per game. And I think the way for him to get to that point where he is that consistent rotation player on a fringe contender, and maybe even pushing Aaron Baines to start by the end of the year, and as we saw against the Spurs, even getting crunch time minutes, like closing games, I think the way for him to do that is to be a little more sound with, like, the fundamentals of the game. And what I mean is, like, okay, the production against San Antonio was awesome, and he did. He had an incredible game. Nick Nurse shouted him out after the game for it too. But the thing with Chris Boucher that I think is, like, maybe the final stepping stone for him in becoming a more complete player is something like as simple as boxing out, right? Like, he'll grab you 10 rebounds in a game, but what doesn't show up in the stat sheet are those 4 or 5 rebounding opportunities that the team didn't get because maybe he jumped out to block a shot that he didn't have a chance to block. He bid on a pump fake and is now out of position on a rebounding opportunity. He just mistimed his jump. We saw that against San Antonio a few times. And on what turned out to be the game-winning shot from the Spurs, it was on actually 2 missed box outs from Chris Boucher. So again, I think most people are thrilled with his production through 2 games, as they should be. But I still think, if he's going to get to the level the Raptors need him to be without Marc Gasol and Serge Ibaka this year, I think it's those, like, the sound fundamentals that he has to clean up, and mostly just something as simple as boxing out and team rebounding, as opposed to just going nuts for the loose balls.
No, those are great points, and definitely, working on his development while also not putting the pressure to expect too much from him at the same time. It's a fine balance. We got to switch gears a little bit. Let's talk about some mental health. So Fred VanVleet talked about DeMar DeRozan's impact, especially on this subject, saying that, he made change in $1 billion industry. He changed $1 billion industry, and he changed it in pretty much single-handedly by speaking out. How much did DeMar DeRozan's words impact your perception on athletes and mental health? I'll start with you, Joe. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'd like to think that I never took, pro athletes' humanity for granted. And I don't know, maybe I did at certain points, but I'd hope whether it's myself or other people, even people not in the media, just casual fans who maybe see these guys as, because their skills are superhuman in a lot of ways, I feel like sometimes people forget that they are actually still human, and they still deal with the same struggles and concerns and demons and whatever you want to say as the rest of us, right? As any other human being would. And no amount of money or dream job is going to change that, right? It doesn't make them less human. So I hope that not only for myself or for the media, just fans in general, people in general, I hope that DeMar DeRozan started a conversation, and I think he has, that has led to a point where people are seeing these guys and women, men and women, professional athletes, celebrities, whoever, right? Anyone that's in that public spotlight as still human, who are still going through the same struggles that other humans go through. And yeah, if DeMar DeRozan did open up that conversation, which it seems like he did, then I think history should remember him for that, almost as much, maybe more so than his actual basketball talent and production.
Yeah, I mean, I think you hit it on the head here. Like for 3 of us who are around athletes, professional athletes all the time, it's a bit different for us. You know what I mean? But when you said that people don't always see them as human, I think that's key, right? We kind of look at them like superheroes, and that nothing can bother them because they have a lot of money, when that's just simply not the case. You know what I mean? And furthermore, I think it did change something a little bit because, when you grow up, especially in the Black community, mental health is not something that you touch on very often. It's almost it's almost like it's something that doesn't exist. We don't like to admit it. But at the end of the day, we're all people. And there's a saying, more money equals more problems. There's a lot of things that come with it, right? Sometimes you don't know who you can trust. People and look at you and think, oh, you have all this money, everything should be fine with you, when that's clearly not the case. Everybody goes through different things in their life, whether it be financially, mentally, spiritually, whatever the case may be. So I'm glad he opened up that door, because it's definitely a conversation that needs to be had all year round for everyone.
No, you guys honestly touched on great points. And Michael, you talked about especially the Black community not opening up about mental health, and it's a generational thing, especially on different levels of sport. That's the other thing. Like, okay, I'm happy that he opened up on the NBA level, because we saw guys like Kelly Oubre and Kevin Love also come out and talk about their mental health battles as well. But like scaling it back down, I know I personally had a friend that struggled with mental health and ultimately lost her battle. And she was a Division I athlete. And so it's harder on different types of levels to come out and really be open and talk about these types of things. But I have to say, thank you guys so much for joining us here on RTX. We do have to go back to Paul Jones and Sherman Hamilton now. The Raptors take on the Philadelphia 76ers 7:30 tomorrow Eastern, and you can catch the game on Sportsnet as well as the Fan 590. We got to talk about Embiid. We only have 90 seconds left in the show. Now, he might cause some troubles. We don't have Marc Gasol anymore. So, Sherm, quickly, give me your thoughts. How do we go about handling the big man?
Well, I think Nick Nurse has done a great job. Obviously, he doesn't have the computer that Marc Gasol was defensively, but the ability to switch up the coverages and kind of send double teams at Joel Embiid at different times from different angles, off the dribble, off the catch. Maybe he faces up and sees a body coming at him. He gets rid of the basketball. Just keep him guessing and don't give him any rhythm, because you don't have that individual guy like Marc Gasol who can just frustrate the heck out of him this season. You've got to do some other things to kind of make him constantly have to work mentally at figuring out ways to attack the offensive end. And then you go.
Scheme, Savanna, and I hear Sherm talk about it. I mean, Marc Gasol was a big part of it, but they also had the right offensive schemes. And if Philadelphia is going to get the ball to Embiid with shooters like Seth Curry, Tobias Harris, Danny Green around him, then when the double comes, if you can't get a deflection or a piece of it, you've got to be able to rotate, close out, and contest those shots and keep them off the glass. So you can still kind of minimize his impact with your schemes. It's always nicer if you have the players to really, really, enact the schemes. And Marc Gasol's not there. There are other guys. Nick Nurse talked about maybe seeing a little bit more Alex Len. He's a big body. So there are other things that Nick Nurse can do. And as Sherm said, it's always underestimated how you can, well, in the case of Joel Embiid, tire him out or put him on the bench in foul trouble if you push the pace and play the game in a certain way.
I'm looking forward to watching the game. I know that we also have to consider Tobias Harris in the pick and roll situation as well. But we will get there, and we'll come back with another episode of Raptors Day on Friday. As always, thank you guys for joining us, and hope you're having a happy holidays.